morning, all. Super King Adora, and I'm glad to say I'm finally back with the Paleo-Profiles series. I do apologize for the long wait, but it's time to pick up where I left off. This episode is special because it was handpicked by you all, and you all chose the magnificent and terrifying jaws of death, the Dunkleosteus. My first run-in with this fish would be in a book I had as a kid that covered a few significant species from the Precambrian to the Pleistocene, which I think either is or used to be referred to as the Quaternary period. I was amazed by the blades in this mouth that were dared to be called teeth, and they made me think of the Dunkleosteus as a swimming guillotine of the Paleozoic seas. This amazement was reinforced when I saw the skull of one at the Field Museum, and I was blown away by the size of the thing, and that was just its skull. Thankfully though, I'm not alone today. I am joined by Super Pish. Pish is honestly just a chill guy who likes not only the Jurassic franchise but other sorts of media as well. You can find him on YouTube, link in the description below, where he has videos that feature Dino Diego as well. He also has some plans for future JB and JW content. But if you want to communicate with him more clearly, you can find him either at the JPod Squad or at Jurassic Junction on Discord. Make sure to hit his relaxation station and catch some of those chill vibes I was mentioning earlier. I'll let Pish introduce himself before we kick things off with today's subject.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on, Ghidorah. Also, hey there, I'm Super Pish. I've got a channel with varying degrees of dinosaur-related content, as well as no consistent upload schedule, so if that's your jam, feel free to stop by. Now, I can't exactly remember the first time I encountered Dunkleosteus. I might have seen it in like a few books here and there, and I vaguely remember having a toy of it when I was little, but the one thing I remember most prominently was definitely the BBC Sea Monsters special with Nigel Marven, where he cage dives with the beast in question. Man, just thinking about that gets my nostalgia going haywire. Anyway, enough from me, let's get into the profile.
Normally, in these style of videos, we let our guests introduce you to the subject of today's topic, but I'm going to switch it up today and I'll start it off. So, Dunkleosteus is an extinct genus of large armored jaw fishes known as placoderms, which is Greek meaning plate-skinned and placed under the order of Arthrodira, which is Greek for jointed neck. It lived during the late Devonian period, 382 to 358 million years ago, and it consists of at least 10 different species. These species are as follows, and I do apologize if I butcher these names: D. terrelli, D. belgicus, D. denisoni, D. marsici, D. magnificus, D. missouriensis, D. newberry, D. Ambliodoratus, and D. reverie, of which D. terrelli is the largest, coming in at 8.79 meters or 28.8 feet long and weighing about 4 tons. That's as long as an orca, if not longer, and just about as heavy. It should be noted that these various species have been found around the world in places like North America, Belgium, Poland, and Morocco. The name Dunkleosteus is a combination of the name of David Dunkel, an American paleontologist and curator of vertebrate paleontology for both the Cleveland and Smithsonian Museums of Natural History, and he studied fish fossils extensively. His surname would be paired with the Greek meaning for bone, osteon, which together means Dunkel's bone. As stated earlier, D. terrelli is quite possibly the largest placoderm to have existed and shared many similar traits to other placoderms, like a 2-part bony armored exterior which would have made it a slow but powerful swimmer. Instead of teeth, Dunkleosteus had 2 pairs of sharp bony plates which formed a beak-like structure. These bony plates had a bite force of 6,000 newtons or 1,349 pounds at the tip and 7,400 newtons or 1,664 pounds at the blade edge. That's comparable to some modern-day animals like alligators and such. The jaws of Dunkleosteus possessed a 4-bar linkage that incorporated connections between the skull, the thorax shield, the lower jaw, and jaw muscles, all joined together by movable joints. This allowed the Dunkleosteus to open and close its jaws in milliseconds, roughly around 50 to 60, giving the ability to produce its high bite force. This allowed it to puncture cuticle or dermal armor of its prey, suggesting that it fed on other free-swimming armored prey like ammonites or other placoderms. It's also believed that younger Dunkleosteus swam closer to the surface while the mature adults inhabited the deeper depths of the oceans. This was probably to avoid predation from the adults, as the armor for a younger Dunkleosteus would be no match for a mature adult. Interestingly enough, fossils of Dunkleosteus that have been found with boluses, which are ball-like mixtures of food and saliva that form during the chewing processes, these boluses of fish bones within Dunkleosteus were semi-digested, and it's theorized that the massive fish may have regurgitated them instead of digesting them.
It's theorized that Dunkleosteus may have also been one of the vertebrates to utilize internal egg fertilization, meaning the egg is fertilized inside of the female of the species, similar to how mating between certain species of animals like birds and mammals do today. Make sure to note, however, that there is evidence of some placoderms being viviparous, which means that they are capable of live birth, as some have been found with umbilical cords. It is unsure if this applies to Dunkleosteus, but seeing as it shares a lot of common traits with other placoderms, it is not outside the realm of possibility. There are actually some modern day fish that are capable of giving live birth, making this claim to Dunkleosteus seem even more valid. However, until more evidence can be found to support or deny this claim, it will stay in the realm of theoretics for now. Also, did you know that when it comes to fossilization that only 5% of Dunkleosteus specimens have more than just a quarter of their body preserved? It's mainly their skulls and frontal armor sections that get preserved due to how dense and thick the bone is, which unfortunately leaves the rest of the animal's appearance a mystery, and leaves paleontologists making guesses based off of other species in the placoderm family, such as Dunkleosteus, which have been preserved with their hind sections. However, there was one exception. A species of D. torelli that had some of its pectoral fin preserved gave a more in-depth look into what was previously assumed about said species. The fin morphology revealed that their fins were more variable than previously thought, and was much more influenced by locomotory requirements. With that in mind, paleontologists took that knowledge and combined it with the knowledge of fish feeding niches to infer the body shape of Dunkleosteus back in 2017. In this reconstruction, Dunkleosteus has more of a shark-like profile, including a strong interior lobe on its tail in contrast to other reconstructions based on similar placoderms. However, it's important to remember that this is just an educated guess as to what the rest of this massive fish could have possibly looked like, since fossils extending past its armored head are extremely rare. Dunkleosteus was originally found by J. Terrell. He happened upon the armored bone plating one day when he was out at the shale cliffs of Cove Beach in Sheffield Lake, Ohio, and it wouldn't be until 1956 that Dunkleosteus would receive its name, along with its epithet Terrelli coming from J.
There is no doubt Dunkleosteus was an exceptional hunter, but not even it could compete against time, or evolution for that matter. Paleontologists agree that the drop in oxygen levels in the oceans is what led to the extinction of this massive fish. Without the proper oxygen levels, larger organisms during the Devonian period lacked sufficient levels to sustain their oxygen intake and would have eventually led to death. Couple that with the fact that fish were evolving to swim faster to escape being preyed on by larger organisms under the waves meant that heavy armored placoderms like Dunkleosteus would no longer be able to keep up and found themselves being outcompeted by those that could. The world Dunkleosteus inhabited was vastly different to what we know now. The world's oceans covered more of the planet than it does today. The continents were in the process of becoming the supercontinent Pangaea, as North America was merged with Europe, forming the landmass known as Euramerica. A smaller continent sat up north and was called Siberia, but the biggest landmass sat to the south. It was the current supercontinent of the time, Gondwana or Gondwana land for those familiar with that version of the name. Gondwana would later fuse with the other landmass Laurasia and help become Pangaea before once more separating and becoming Gondwana once again. Dunkleosteus inhabited what paleontologists believe to be a subtropical ocean. Though many species of Dunkleosteus have been found across the world, D. torelli would have lived in the light blue areas west of Euramerica, where it was more than likely the apex. Its prey would have consisted of smaller fish and ammonites, other placoderms, and, according to some fossil evidence, other Dunkleosteus, as bite marks matching those of Dunkleosteus have been found on other members of its species.
Suffice it to say that Dunkleosteus was and will continue to be a fascinating footnote in the long history of the fossil record. It evolved to have armor that served a different function to what we would normally think, to attack rather than defend, and for 24 million years, it thrived and seemed to have worked just fine.
I'd like to thank Pish for coming on and help me. It was certainly awesome having you on board, good sir. Don't forget to stop by the relaxation station sometime to kick your feet up, or you might too find yourselves extinct at the bottom of the sea. I enjoyed working on this Paleo-Profile, as even I learned something about today's subject, and I've decided you guys will get to choose episode 8's Paleo-Profile because episode 7 will feature the dinosaur with no skull, the Metriacanthosaurus.